there, welcome back. And if you're new here, hello, my name is Dara, and in today's video, you're going to learn how I made this gorgeous pastel lavender arrangement. All of the tools and materials that I used to create this arrangement are linked below in the description box for easy access for you. All of the links to purchase all of the materials are also listed there. Here is a beautiful close-up of this arrangement, and I'm very excited to show you how I achieved this super textural look today. So let's begin. I'm first starting with geranium, and with this first piece here I'm going to show you, you can split a lot of these branches into two, and so I'm doing that here with my Zenport shears. That way you get two pieces essentially for the price of one. If you trim it correctly for the correct length of your arrangement, you can get two pieces as opposed to stripping off all of that bottom foliage. And here again with that other branch, these were kind of lanky pieces, so I was able to get essentially two stems out of one. And I kind of approach all of my stems in that way. I'm constantly looking to maximize the amount of product that I have on any given stem, whether it be flowers or foliage. So kind of look at the stem, give it a quick one over, and see how I can maximize that. So some of these stems I got 4 stems out of one, if that makes sense. Some of them have longer laterals, so I'm just showing you here as the base of this arrangement, clipping off any of the slightly curled or yellowed foliage. That is completely normal. It just means that some of that foliage has died off quicker, and you'll pretty much always get that with geranium. I shared this in another video, but hot pro tip, geranium typically wilt pretty quickly, so you're going to want to use hot water when you're processing and conditioning them. Now I'm going in with hyacinth, and I will link a video up to the right here on how to process and condition and care for hyacinth. I did not feel that it was necessary to use hyacinth sticks and stake the hyacinth for this arrangement because the height of the arrangement that I'm making and the height of the hyacinth that I have were just perfect. And also the way I'm using them in the arrangement is pretty much at an upright position. They're not horizontal, they're not going in the arrangement sideways. They will be supported by that galvanized chicken wire structure that I made for the arrangement, and also the geranium base structure that I made there. So pretty much all of these are sitting upright, and I decided to go in with this flower first because stems are very delicate, and if we were to try to put those in the arrangement at the end, you'd have a lot harder time getting them in because they can break and bend so easily. So second flower in is lilac, and I will show you here that for every stem on the lilac, I am trimming down and whittling with my knife. I'm kind of breaking open that membrane on the stem, stripping off the bark, snipping the end of the stem, and then also snipping vertically up the stem to ensure optimum hydration. Lilac can be difficult to hydrate. There are several different methods that, depending on who you ask, they will instruct you to do different things. I do not prefer to bang the ends of stems with a hammer. I think it's a very inefficient way to create water uptake for these stems. I think the best way to do it is to, with your Victorinox florist knife, again, strip off that outer bark so that you're exposing the green membrane, kind of like the epidermis, if you will, of the stem, whittling that off, clipping the end of the stem, and then again slicing vertically up the stem so you're creating a nice split there. If you would like to see a tutorial on how to do this, please leave a comment below so that I know you're interested in that type of content, because if you're not, then I'm not gonna bother to make that video. So let me know what you're interested in learning so that I can create that content for you. So lavender, gorgeous palette here, and I don't know if you've noticed, but this is still in the style of my signature pave design, but I've been incorporating a lot more greenery lately. Third flower in here, this stunning, what I like to call lavender, because it's kind of a hybrid between pink and lavender. It's the most precious color. I think if I had to choose a color to live with for the rest of my life, it would truly be this color. It's the prettiest. It's so uplifting and soothing at the same time. Kind of like how lavender, the essential oil, is. Very soothing, yet also uplifting. So yeah, going back to the pave arrangements, but now incorporating green into it, I was very inspired recently by a Japanese florist that I love so very much named Fleurs Tremolo. They have a lot of images up on Pinterest, and I thought, wow, they kind of have a way of doing a pave style arrangement, but with greenery in it that makes it still look very lush and alive. And I thought, I'm gonna start doing that too. So I think you might see more arrangements featuring more geranium and more greenery for this lush, super springtime look. I think it's very timely for that here in LA. The landscape is popping off with a lot of greenery, so it's a good time to start incorporating more greenery. And also it adds a nice extra layer of fragrance, especially when it is like a geranium. So I've explained this in my other how to design pave arrangements, but I always do my flowers in layers. The fourth layer, if you will, here is the clematis. This is a gorgeous Dutch product, and I'm also doing the same thing that I did with the geranium, where I kind of look at the stem, and if the stems are long enough, I can get 2, maybe even 3 stems out of one. That is the case for this, and I broke that off there. So I can stick that down a little bit lower, and then this one up a little bit higher. But it requires you to know, of course, the heights of your arrangements. If this was a larger arrangement, you might not be able to get those shorter pieces or split the stem in half because you wouldn't have enough water or space for that smaller stem, if that makes sense. So fourth layer, going in with this clematis, and I'm choosing to leave on this green because it's creating another layer of texture and greenery in this arrangement, which I want. Were this another style of pave arrangement, I might not. I might actually opt to clean off all of that foliage, but because this is a more lush springtime composition, I like the shape of that green, and I think it adds a little bit more texture to this arrangement. I always prep my vase first with Flora Life powder food, and now we're going in with gorgeous cool water rose. This is also kind of another pinkish lavender rose. And usually I might go ahead and trim off the calyx of the rose because that texture would interfere with the pave designs that I normally create. But in this case, those calyx, first, were not long enough to see on the outside of the head, and then B, did not create a more messy looking texture for this arrangement. So it's one less step and less time that you have to spend when you do that. So if you're going for a more garden style arrangement, you can go ahead and leave those calyx on. It just creates less work and less time you spend designing that arrangement, which I think, especially in the context of a flower shop, is always a good thing because there's only so much time that we have in a day to create arrangements. Typically in a flower shop, they want you to be done with this size arrangement in about 15 minutes, and at the end of this video, I think it was clocked in about an hour, 45 minutes, depending, how you look at it, but It's about a 45-minute arrangement, and that is because I am using all of the stems for each individual bunch. So I have 25 stems of roses, 25 stems of carnation, I actually got 2 bunches of hyacinth, so 10 stems of hyacinth, 10 stems of lilac, 10 stems of geranium, 10 stems of clematis. Again, the entire recipe for this arrangement will be linked down there in that description box, so you can see exactly how much product you need to create this style arrangement. Technically, you could half this recipe if you wanted to, though I think that most of the time when you're buying product from the market, it will come in 10 and rarely 5 stem bunches. The hyacinth are the only ones that come in 5. So now we're going in with freesia, another gorgeous fragrant flower for this arrangement. Hyacinth, freesia, lilac, geranium, the roses, carnation even have a very beautiful clove scent to them. So I just such a huge fan of fragrant arrangements. It's one of my top priorities when I'm designing. I think it's one of the most important aspects of creating an arrangement. I think especially people appreciate this as grocery store flowers have become less and less fragrant over the years. It's because they're more conventionally grown and they've been hybrid out of the flowers from overproduction. So keeping the fragrance is one of my signature moves on creating these arrangements, and I think people really appreciate that. This vase that I used is, again, a UCI scratch vase. These are still not available online. I get these from my wholesale vendor downtown. This is a 6-inch wide by 5-inch high vase, and the very base of the vase is 4 inches wide. So the overall height and width of this arrangement was 13 inches high by 15 inches wide. And I don't know if you can also notice this, but I tend to design in a little bit of an oval shape. It's not always this perfectly round shape, and I like that. I like an arrangement to have 2 faces, so to speak, front and back, and then the sides are kind of like the sides. Most of the time, people, when they are choosing where to put an arrangement, it's on their dining room table or their coffee table, and there is always a face to the arrangement. So when you're looking at an arrangement, you're getting the widest perspective of it possible. I could design more round style bouquets, but then that would be more of kind of like a French hand tied, which if you're interested in seeing that, let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to make a video showing you how to make a spiral bouquet. And now we've got stunning scabiosa. This is all in the same color palette. I love how perfectly this monochromatic lavender arrangement worked out. Just stunning. Most of these stems were all quite slender, and so very easy and very good for this style arrangement because I was able to fit in a lot of product, which for me is ideal. I like a highly textural arrangement. Let me know in the comments where you are watching from. I'm very curious. Now I've got the chocolate Queen Anne's lace. This is one of my favorite finishing flowers to use. This variety is called Dara. It's chocolate Dara. It has a gorgeous kind of burgundy, plum, brown hue to it, which is a little bit more fun and textured than just your standard white, which brought a little bit more depth to this arrangement and also added another layer of funky texture, which I just love so much. This arrangement was for one of my favorite, all-time favorite regulars, Mara Queen, her mother's birthday, and her mother is an Aquarius. So it got me thinking, well, Aquarius is kind of a funny sign because it's always been a slightly confusing one for me. It is a air sign, but symbolically is associated with the water bearer. So I think that purple lavender was the perfect kind of color palette for this arrangement because of that higher consciousness associated with Aquarius, higher thinking. Air signs are very thought and thinking oriented, but Aquarius, because it's so close to Pisces, is associated more with spirituality than the other air signs. Futurism, intellectual advancement, humanitarian efforts, spirituality, quirky behavior. I thought that lavender was a lovely color for this arrangement, and also just for her mom in general. So I hope that she really enjoyed this arrangement and that it brought her a lot of joy, and that the fragrance just felt inspiring and lovely for this spring birthday. Finishing out this arrangement with finishing touch. As always, give it a vigorous shake, spray about 5 to 10 times, rotating your arrangement as you go, and here is the final look. I'm so thrilled with how this pave / more greenery springtime arrangement turned out. I'm very, very happy with it, and I hope that you enjoyed watching the making of this arrangement and that you learned something new today. Again, all of the tools and materials that I used to create this arrangement are shoppable below, of course, except for the fresh flowers. But all the tools that I use to design this arrangement, the Zenport shears, Victorinox florist knife, can be bought through my Amazon store, linked in the description box below. And as always, feel free to leave any questions or comments, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. And remember to like and subscribe for more floral design education and entertainment. Thank you so much for watching.